FCPlaythroughs!
Cool!
Hey everyone, it's Nux, and today, the time has finally come to talk about everything with Nintendo Switch 2, Mario Kart World, and more, while analyzing the many uncertainties they bring to the future of Nintendo. Now trust me, I know this video was long overdue, and I definitely do apologize for that. But I just really needed the time to gather all my thoughts together, because I feel like everything with Nintendo Switch 2 is a little more complicated and less black and white than the internet has painted it. And the internet, man. Woo! Nintendo discussion ever since the full reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2 has been absolutely unbearable, because it feels like we're in a period where the community has been most divided since the Wii U days. But the difference is, as to where I feel like it made sense back then, because Nintendo was legitimately on the verge of collapse with the Wii U, I don't necessarily think things are as bad as those days. At least not yet anyway. And I do think there's some elements that are overblown, but also there are still many fair points to be against Nintendo currently. So, in order to understand how all this madness began, let's backtrack to where we were before the full reveal of the Switch 2. So as I talked about in a previous Nintendo update video, Nintendo were taking their sweet time to fully reveal the Switch 2, and that alone was causing a lot of frustration among the community, because it definitely felt like it was time to move on. However, while we did get a date for that big Switch 2 Direct, we did have to go through one more Switch 1 Direct, which if you know how my reaction for that went, it was definitely a rough watch. Between my copium for Sakurai's secret project being there, and being Kid Icarus, the endless Planet Robobot rumors turning out false, and just overall, I thought most of the reveals weren't for me, with stuff like Rhythm Heaven and Tamagotchi Life. Not the worst Direct ever, but not exactly one of my favorites for sure. But then that gets us into the main Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and what were my overall thoughts on that? Personally, I thought it was a solid Direct, and hell, I'd argue it was one of the best. Like, I do not understand the hate that this Direct got in of itself, because I thought it was a good show. Now, was it perfect? Not exactly, and there's quite a few specific reasons for this. But before we get into that, let me briefly recap and go over my thoughts on what the lineup was. So the show opened with Mario Kart World, as many people expected, and objectively, that trailer was amazing. Between the way the Mario Kart cast are introduced, the crazy new gameplay elements like the wall jumping and rail grinding, the absolute insanity of seeing a dang cow driving, Mario Kart World just opened the Direct strong as hell, even if I do think the name is a little basic for my liking. Plus we learned it was going to be the Switch 2's launch game, though it was strange they didn't show the price. I wonder why they didn't do that. But anyway, what added on to the hype was the reveal for a follow-up Mario Kart World Direct that we were all sure and confident would build up the game even more, right? But before we get to that mess, let's continue the lineup analysis. So we saw that game chat was a thing, which seemed cool as a concept on paper, yes, finally giving Nintendo some form of voice chat after all these dang years. But the fact that it's tied to a feature you have to pay for is pretty silly, and the unapologetic lag that was on display, even in the Direct, was something. Then a little game called Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour was revealed, which was meant to showcase the system's features, like those mouse controls. But the extremely controversial thing with this game is that Nintendo decided it'd be a good idea to make this a paid game. This small app-like game that barely has a lick of actual engaging gameplay was going to be a paid game, which was a very eyebrow-raising moment, and little did we know, was a very dark red flag. But despite those rough moments, the show moved on, and we then got into Nintendo Switch 2 editions. And my thoughts on these are definitely very mixed. On one hand, these were basically meant to be upgrades to older Nintendo Switch 1 games that showcase how the Switch 2 is indeed a step up in power, which is very good in my eyes because the Switch 1's power being so dated was easily becoming its biggest weakness, with every year the system was still going. However, the handling for each Nintendo Switch 2 edition varied for sure. Games like Legend ZA Metroid Prime 4 benefited from it, even if Legend ZA still got a lot of flack, given how bad Pokemon has become with graphical fidelity. A whole can of worms I do not want to get into right now. Games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom look cool with the upgrades, but a $10 upgrade? Really? Was it really necessary for us to pay $10 just for a graphical upgrade? Mario Party Jamboree getting an update was exciting at first, but it just amounted to this really gimmicky side mode that doesn't actually add too many more interesting things of substance. Like, is it so hard to add more boards and minigames? And finally was Star-Crossed Worlds, the one that got me hyped the most, because I did not think HAL was going to go back and update Kirby in the Forgotten Land again. Though while the new stages, music, and boss updates were cool, it was a pretty short new mode. So yeah, very hit or miss feelings on that section of the Direct. And the next game didn't really light the world on fire either, that being Drag X Drive, the infamous wheelchair mouse control game that everyone pretty much just writes off as a nothing burger game. And not because of its concept necessarily, but because of how this game just had no type of unique energy. It isn't like ARMS, where for as gimmicky as that game could feel, it at least had a very distinct energy and spirit, thanks to things like the music, the very vibrant character designs, the wacky stretchy arms, and etc. Drag X Drive had none of that stuff, so why on earth would anyone care? It was just an absolute filler game. And speaking of, another fillerish feeling game was the reveal that we were getting yet another Hyrule Warriors game. This time themed around Tears of the Kingdom, which seemed cool and all, but like, did we really need this one? I felt the story of Tears of the Kingdom was pretty clear cut on its plot points, even if I did dislike the direction of its fragmented storytelling, like in Breath of the Wild. Plus, from what I've heard, it didn't even give us the honor of playing as my Queen Sonia, so why on earth would I bother? I just feel like Warriors games are played out with series like Zelda and Fire Emblem, and I want some other series to get a chance next. My biggest hopes being Mario, Kirby, or Kid Icarus, but realistically, I could see Xenoblade being next. And I do admit, that series would fit well for a Warriors game, but dang man, I want that Kirby Warriors with playable villains. But anyway, from here, the Direct showed off a lot of third-party stuff, yet I do think the Direct also finds its strides and drops some crazy bombshells, like GameCube NSO with no new tier required, promising titles like the Ore Region Pokemon Duo, Path of Radiance, Chibi Robo, and a lot of other really awesome games. Deltarune and Silksong showed up out of nowhere after I specifically said that neither of them would. A game like The Dustbloods seemed pretty cool too. But what helped this Direct go out with a bang was the surprise reveal of a new 3D Donkey Kong game and a freaking sequel to Kirby Air Ride. Like, I still haven't processed these games, even though they're both out. Now sadly, as much as I really wanted to play Kirby Air Riders, I don't have a Switch 2 yet, so I wasn't able to be there for that game day one, and I'm still pretty out of the loop on it. But from what I've heard, it seems like the game turned out pretty decent. Although I did stream Donkey Kong Bonanza with a friend, and that game was very solid, with probably one of the craziest endings to a Nintendo game ever. If you know, you know. So yeah, the Direct was far from what I'd call perfect, but it was a decently entertaining show in my opinion, with the only major no-show of course being 3D Mario, which still hasn't shown its face yet as of the time of this video, which has definitely driven some Mario fans insane. Like, even if it wasn't 3D Mario, I do think the Direct was missing one more really big game to edge it out, but still, I'd say the show almost could have been pretty dang great to me, if not for everything that was revealed after the show, because Nintendo then proceeded to just bombshell us with the prices, and they basically devastated any goodwill people could have come out of the show with. Now, I predicted that the Switch 2 itself would be around $400, given how the original Switch never did drop its original value of $350, but going up to $450 with almost no type of game bundles or alternate colors was definitely very cheap of them, even though funny enough it's still one of the cheaper game system options these days, so I don't know what the heck Sony and Microsoft fanatics are laughing and napping about. Then you had the price of the games, where so many of them just started going for $70 or more, even if it was extremely questionable whether they deserved it or not. And I think maybe they could have gotten away with some flack if they had stopped it there, but no. They then decided that the next best course of action was to charge $80 freaking for Mario Kart World, basically making Nintendo the first people to break the $70 game barrier and making them public enemy number one. Now, I find it real funny that Sony and Microsoft fanatics tried to clown Nintendo fans for this, given how not only was it their systems that broke the $60 barrier in the first place, but also, let's be real, if Nintendo didn't do it first, some other game company was gonna try to do it eventually. As we all know, GTA 6 is gonna break the $80 game barrier next. Maybe. But still, it was just extremely insane of Nintendo to think charging any game for $80 out the jump was a good idea. And it was clearly a decision made out of pure greed because of how much Mario Kart 8 sold on the original Switch. Now, another thing people did like to forget is that there was a way to get this game for cheap, which was just to buy the Mario Kart World bundle, which more so brought the game to around $50, a much more reasonable pricing. But in terms of a single game, Mario Kart World had a lot of justifying to do for its price, and did the game succeed at doing that? Well, we will come back to that. But yeah, things just did not let up with the post-direct bad news, as even the third-party games weren't safe of controversy, thanks to the whole game key card situation, really bringing Nintendo's status as a leader in physical game media into big questioning. Though, because of how the bad news just did not let up, a lot of people took this chance to spread insane misinformation, and people just ate it up. Like, no guys, that one story about the Switch 2 being a spy console was not remotely true, and no, the system will not automatically explode if it detects a mod, although I wouldn't be surprised if you got banned online, which is fair for online hackers if you ask me, but for people just messing around with basic mods, yeah, an overreaction. Which just gets into the whole wider discussion of Nintendo versus fans when it comes to their copyright BS, and it's just an unbearable time to be a Nintendo fan, man, and it would not let up. And honestly, I can understand it, because as much as I've been a diehard supporter of Nintendo, I don't think any game is justified being over $80 out the box. I don't think certain Switch 2 upgrades or additions justify being $10 to $20 and making bundles of games with them go up to $90 freaking dollars. And those controller prices, oh my goodness, bruh. Overall, I'm just so freaking tired of being price gouged at every corner with Nintendo. It's become my biggest problem with them, not only because I'm not freaking rich, but because it's just become such annoying ammo for folks to kick down anything Nintendo, even if there's nothing actually wrong with it. But maybe some of this controversy could have been softened if Mario Kart World, the game brave enough to be $80, could have showed something that would make it seem like it was worth that price. And well, let's just say that I don't think it exactly convinced every single person. For starters, while the game had a lot of cool and interesting new elements about it, there was nothing that was really selling the idea of this big open world that the game was trying to peddle so much. When they were hyping it up, a lot of people expected things like bosses, maybe a whole story mode, etc. But we never really got anything like that. And that Mario Kart World Direct did absolutely dang nothing to help, as it literally revealed nothing new that we didn't already know. If anything, we were learning that this game would be missing some key things from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, whether that be numerous characters getting snubbed, such as Diddy and Funky Kong yet again, the crossover characters, the Mii's, or poor Kamek, man, who got turned into a dang item after we just finally got him as a character, not helped by a lot of the replacements being generic Mario enemies, which just made the roster a huge mixed bag, as some of the picks are so random, but kinda funny in a wacky way, but others are just a complete waste of a slot. Like, be so for real, y'all. Who gives a care about freaking 𝗵𝗂𝗃 or the dang bat in a snowman? And why are these dang babies still here? Would it have really killed Nintendo to just put them as alternates under their adult counterparts, as well as all these dang costumes? Which, speaking of, why did some characters get done so dirty in costumes, like DK and Pauline? Like, man, I really wanted this roster to put more of a focus back on uniquely named Mario characters again, and really expand the roster to covering Mario's huge pool of characters throughout his history, like I discussed in my Mario Kart 9 wishlist series of videos. But instead, this game feels like they just chose basic Mario faces from the mainline games, not even every mainline game, as we got none of the Odyssey characters, no Mario Wonder characters, just a lot of Bowser enemies, and a few interesting NPC picks, like the Penguin, the Pianta, and our Lord and Savior, the cow from Moo Moo Meadows. But yeah, that element of the game is frustrating alone, but it just doesn't stop there. The battle mode was very lackluster again somehow, even though Mario Kart 8 Deluxe got it right. Features like 200cc are just missing now, even though I feel like they wouldn't be that hard to add back. There's no option for 12 racers, so it just leaves the game stuck with the default 24 racers, which can make races feel a little too chaotic at times from what I've seen. The presentation looks great with the neat new animations, tracks seem mostly solid, with solid picks, yet a few really baffling ones. But again, another downside, why do we only have 32 tracks? Going back to 32 tracks is so lame. And I know there was no way the game was ever gonna match with the 96 tracks Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has after all its DLC, but they could have at least tried to match the 48 that it had out the box. And of course, the open world, which while is very cool on paper, just feels like it doesn't utilize it to its fullest potential. Just looks pretty empty, since the P blocks aren't enough of an incentive to explore it alone, like something such as car parts, characters, or some other more interesting collectibles. Plus there's no bosses, NPCs that can talk, or anything from games like Zelda Breath of the Wild that made its open world interesting. There's the controversy with intermission tracks, some controversies around some of the voice acting, like I could be here all dang day if I just covered Mario Kart World alone. Basically, from what I've analyzed, it's far from a bad game, as it still has a lot of polish and many of the things that make a modern Mario Kart game so much fun. But for how long it took to get this game, it just feels like Nintendo could have done so much more with making this game feel worth the wait. And the only hope on fixing this is with DLC, which Nintendo is taking their sweet time with yet again. And is also just a ticking time bomb as well, because there's a strong chance it's gonna be paid DLC, even though the game is already $80. Just an absolute mess on that front. But hey, the one thing that I will say the game gets right without question is the soundtrack. Because good grief, this might just be the greatest Mario soundtrack of all time, given how many games are represented and how amazing and diverse their remix quality is. Although yet again, this comes with some negatives, being how the game itself has no jukebox in order to play the songs that you want to play anytime, and they haven't added it onto their music app, Nintendo Music, which is just a whole other thing on its own. The drip feeding on that app is real. So yeah, I'd say we're caught up on the Switch 2 madness until the next Direct, but I do want to add in some last rambles in regards to the September 12th Nintendo Direct and some other miscellaneous topics. Now, you all know my thoughts on the Mario Galaxy movie, so no need to dive into that. I thought the Mario Galaxy ports were cool for bringing Galaxy 2 at last, but charging them for $70 with insane levels of greed. The reveal of Mario Tennis Fever was fine, and the game looks cool and all, but man, is it disappointing that this is what Camelot went MIA for, as I really thought this was a sign for a much bigger project from them. They could have at least done something different in terms of Mario sports, because when are we going to get Mario Baseball back, Mario Hoops back, or even that American football Mario game? Mario Wonder Switch 2 Edition looks interesting, as Rosalina finally being playable in a mainline 2D Mario is cool, even if it makes the inevitability of Elephant Rosalina absolutely terrifying. Which on that note, the Koopalings being back is very cool, and helps fix Mario Wonder's biggest issue, which is the lackluster amount of bosses, but all the Koopalings seem like they're going to get Wonder forms, and based on Wendy's, they're going to be interesting to say the least. The Co-Star Luma is a cool throwback to Galaxy 2, but feels like an unnecessary addition, since the game already has easy mode characters with Nabbit and Yoshi. Like seriously Nintendo, chill out on adding so many easy modes, and add day one hard mode options alongside the easy ones. Which, speaking of Yoshi, we got the reveal for a new Yoshi game, but I'm not even going to lie to y'all, it does not look remotely interesting to me. I'm sorry. Yoshi as a series needs to get it together, man, because it is legit the most consistently boring Nintendo series to me. We got Virtual Boy revealed for NSO, which was just absolutely hilarious to me, because I know I joked about Nintendo possibly doing Virtual Boy before touching Wii and DS, but I did not think they'd actually do it. It's funny for sure, but also kind of lame also, because on one hand, Nintendo, please stop this drip feeding BS so y'all can give us Wii and DS after you finish up the lineups for the other game systems. But on another hand, I am aware that once we get to those systems, we're probably gonna see a new expensive ass tier. Samus got a Tron bike in Metroid Prime 4, which I could go into a whole ramble about Metroid Prime 4 and everything it means for the Metroid franchise, but it's probably something better to discuss another time. Freaking Ditto from Pokemon is getting a spin-off game that's basically a Pokemon version of Animal Crossing. Crazy stuff. And they chose to end the direct off with Fire Emblem, and as I said elsewhere, you can probably guess how that went over with certain Nintendo fans. Overall, while the direct had an okay lineup of games, it was hard to appreciate any of them with the inconsistent game prices and DLC handling throughout the entire show. At this point, I'm just convinced prices are gonna be a never-ending topic when it comes to Nintendo this generation, and it's going to make general Nintendo discussion a living nightmare. Will things get better when it comes to that specific front? Who knows, man. As with how everything is when it comes to politics and the economy, anything can happen. Especially given how Nintendo's leadership is changing once again, since the boy Doug Bowser is no longer going to be around. We're definitely entering yet another new era of Nintendo, and what are my closing thoughts? Basically, despite my love for Nintendo hanging on, thanks to how they can manage out some solid games still, it's very clear that their recent practices have increasingly gotten more scummy, and it's clear their success with things like the original Nintendo Switch, the billion-dollar making Mario movie, and everything else is getting to the company. I still have a lot of respect for many of their individual developers, their musicians, and the smaller people who work on these teams, as clearly there's still a strong gameplay philosophy with them there, which is especially important given the rise of stuff like AI and whatnot. But it's not only getting harder to support Nintendo because of these questionable business decisions, which do nothing but bring negativity to the community, but it's getting to a point where I can't support them even if I want to, as these prices are getting ridiculous. $70 to $80 as a standard for new games, no matter if they are worth the content or not, will break the industry. And it makes me very concerned for the future of Nintendo and gaming as a whole. But if people really want things to change, instead of being obnoxious to others at every turn, how about y'all actually vote with y'all wallets and don't buy specific things you claim you're not gonna support? Yet even though that's my recommendation to the people who are oh so anti-Nintendo right now, if you're expecting me to end this with some big "I'm done with Nintendo" rant, you're not getting it. I very much still have a strong passion for Nintendo, and if they make a game I like that I think is worth the price, I'll buy it. If not, I won't buy it, and it's as simple as that. I'll get a lot of hate for this stance, but I mean, it's basically been my stance with all companies. Call me a consumer all you want, but we're all consumers to something at the end of the day. We live in a rough world now more than ever. If something is an outlet for you, as long as it's not hurting others, do whatever the hell you want. But yeah, what this all means in the long term is definitely going to be a rocky road to follow, especially with how things are going with entertainment as a whole. So while I can't promise I'll always be around every step of the way, as long as I have that drive and passion, I'll see this community through to what I see is the bitter end, just like with the Sonic community. But alright, with that done, this is the end of my thoughts. If you've made it to this point of the video, thank you for watching all the way until the end. So, what are your thoughts on the first year of the Nintendo Switch 2 and its games? How do you feel with the future of Nintendo, and what games do you hope to see in the future? Let me know in the comments below. And please be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new to it, and follow my additional social media in the description for more content and updates. This has been 𝗃𝗂𝗀𝗶𝗰, and I'm out. Peace.